Hey, how's it going guys? It's Nate here. And Skyrim's a game that throws its fair share of choices at the Dragonborn. A variety of quests and several other events will offer the Dovahkiin an opportunity to put forth their own input and make some decisions, oftentimes carrying varying consequences. Most of the options you're given are clouded in moral uncertainty, where what a good guy would do isn't exactly the most obvious. Which Civil War faction is the best for Skyrim or Tamriel? Do I spare Cicero because Sithis asks, even after he went nuts? But there are indeed a few possible courses for action in-game that are so clear-cut, where the right thing to do is obvious. But Skyrim will still let you embrace your inner evildoer. So today we'll be diving into 5 more evil choices you can make in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Part 2! Starting off, the Hearthfire DLC sought to introduce a number of new mechanics geared more towards settling down and building rather than saving the world a third time. The biggest ones were the new home building system, as well as the new options available for adoption, which is what this fact is concerned with. You see, adopted kids don't just stand around and stare at walls all day. They have a few custom events and interactions Bethesda gave them to make them feel a bit more alive than most NPCs. One of those custom events, revolving around your kids, can randomly be triggered when you come home one day, to find your son or daughter, or both, standing in your house with an animal. The child will explain that the creature approached them when they were out playing, and was really friendly, before begging you to let them keep it as a pet, promising to handle all the upkeep and not burden you with it at all. Now, you are given the final say in this matter, so if you want to be a bit evil already, before we even get into the main fact itself, you can just tell your kid, no, go put it outside. I don't know, perhaps you're role-playing Red Foreman or something. This will bother your child, but they'll ultimately respect your judgment. However, your real chance to be twisted comes if you agree to let the animal stay. Obviously, the kids will be ecstatic. However, none of these potential pets are registered as essential NPCs. You can probably see where I'm going with this one. One can very much murder their child's pets to death if they so please. While horribly cruel, this will cause said child to develop some unique behaviors for a short period of time, wherein they'll refuse to enter dialogue with you and comment on what a horrible person you are for a few days.
Why did you do that? I'll never speak to you again. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Eventually they will cool off and go back to normal, but that period in between is relatively interesting. So, the next time the kids don't want to do their chores, just remind them what kind of leverage you actually have. Next on our list, once the Dawnguard DLC has been installed, a new wealth of possible random encounters will become available, all revolving around vampires, vampire hunters, and a whole bunch of other spooky sights. One of the most hilarious of these new encounters centers around a traveling Dawnguard agent you can radiantly meet, named Dawnguard Novice Hakar. Now, usually when one happens across Dawnguard agents in the wild, they'll be a part of larger patrols or convoys, simply seeking out evil creatures and keeping the peace. But Hakar is different. He'll be all alone when you spot him, under attack by vampires. Alas, it's not just his condition that's unique, but also his personality. Because rather than try to fight off the beasts like he's expected to, you know, being a vampire hunter and everything, Hakar will instead be seen fleeing in terror. He'll be actively running away. If you choose to bail out this poor soul by slaying his pursuers, he'll thank you and give you most of the items in his inventory, which includes a note with his orders, before swearing off vampire hunting and, yet again, running away into the distance. The note you're given reveals the location of a supply cache, but the way it's written also clearly suggests that the Dawnguard organization has been upset with Hakar's poor performance lately, calling him a, quote, embarrassment to our order, after a series of failures. So I suppose his going AWOL shouldn't come as a total surprise. But perhaps you weren't in the mood for being a hero, or thought Hakar should fight his own battles when you first came across him, because you can decide to be a bit passively evil and just not step in and intervene, letting the vampires hunt him down and ultimately kill him. Doing this doesn't boast many gameplay changes. You can still loot his corpse for his items and will probably have to beat back the bloodsuckers anyway, but you will get to hear the poor guy's desperate pleas and cries for help, while you just stand around and watch an amusement.
Help me! gods, vampires! I can't take this anymore. I'm not cut out for this. I'm getting out of here. Help me!
Coming in at number 3, the quest, Diplomatic Immunity, is probably my favorite in the game, and easily by far in Skyrim's main quest line. It centers around the Dragonborn's infiltration of a party at the Thalmor Embassy, with your secret intention being to search the compound for evidence of what the Aldmeri Dominion knows about the dragon attack on Helgen. Ultimately, we learn that they know about as much as we do, that being nothing at all, and are forced to make a desperate escape. However, while that's the core of the mission, we're afforded a number of opportunities to make our own decisions. And some of those can be downright awful. One of the most significant concerns the fate of Malborn, the wood elf bartender who works for the Thalmor, but secretly is aiding your cause, risking his life for what he believes in. He's the man who gets you into the embassy, and also offers quite a bit of cover throughout the whole debacle. Truly a good ally. Well, towards the end of the quest, our heroic Bosmer buddy will have his cover blown, and he'll be captured by Dominion agents, who will demand that we surrender ourselves, or it'll be Malborn who will pay the price. He'll tell you to go on, save yourself. But that's not the Dragonborn way, and most players will help free the elf. Besides, those agents who captured him have keys in their inventories that we sort of need anyway. But nothing's stopping you from just sneaking up on those agents, taking the keys, and proceeding along with the quest, leaving Malborn behind. Additionally, if you attack too recklessly, even if your heart is in the right place, the elf may be killed in the ensuing battle. Furthermore, while we can betray Malborn and see to it that he suffers a horrible fate, that's not even the worst thing the Dragonborn can do during this mission. At least, in my opinion. Let me explain. At the beginning of the quest, we need to create a distraction at the party, to give us some time to slip away and start snooping. While there's quite a few options, anything from buying a man a bit too much to drink to get him to cause a scene, to asking an old friend to help you out. But one potential distraction allows for you to convince Eriker, a fellow party guest with a terrible reputation, that one of the servant girls, a Bosmer named Brelas, has a thing for him. This will result in Eriker approaching her, only to get hilariously rejected, provoking him to lash out in a rage and provide the distraction we're looking for. That's not all though, because if you decide to stick around for a little while, and not take your opportunity to sneak through the embassy like you're supposed to, you'll find that Elwyn, the Thalmor agent hosting the party, will have Brelas, that wood elf, arrested and taken into the dungeon, much to the poor girl's horror.
I demand that you have this wench removed from my presence at once.
Well, whatever the truth of it, I'm sure a few words with Master Relindel will have a salutary effect. Take her downstairs.
Yes, Madam Ambassador. Mistress Elenwyn, it's not true. I did nothing. Sir, you must tell her. You don't know what they'll do to me. Please.
Now, if you wait this long, you'll miss your opportunity to sneak out, and we'll have to create another distraction. But it is kind of worth it to see this scene. And later on in the quest, when we go into the Thalmor Embassy's dungeon, we can find, you guessed it, Brelas imprisoned and in chains. Now, at that point in the mission, you will have a chance to redeem yourself and free her. Or keep with the evil trend and abandon her to her fate. So, play your cards right. Or, let's be honest, wrong, and we can ensure that a completely innocent, kind-hearted third party suffers some pretty awful consequences through no fault of her own. For fourth spot, speaking of innocent people trapped in dungeons, we have the tragic tale of Naya. We can meet this character and decide her fate during the quest Old Friends in the Dragonborn DLC. In this mission, we're sent to track down Ildari Sorrowthrill, the Dunmer mage responsible for the recent outbreak of ash spawn on Solstheim, and put an end to her schemes. She'll be held up in the collapsed ruins of High Point Tower. As we fight our way through this dungeon in order to get to and confront Ildari, we can come across a small wing of the fortress, with some prison cells. While most of the former occupants of these uncomfortable rooms clearly met a sad end, one prisoner is still alive. A Redguard named Naya. She'll beg the Dovahkiin to unlock her cell and let her go, explaining that she was put in here by the mage you're after, and promising to tell you everything she knows if you can help. Simply pick the door's lock, or find a key, and the woman will keep her end of the bargain, and tell you whatever she can, revealing that her and her fellow miners who lived here previously were attacked and captured by the evil mage. everyone else eventually died, but Naya had been saved for last. After that little monologue, the newly freed prisoner will begin to leave the fort, wishing you luck. Later on, appearing at Raven Rock's Retching Netch Tavern, where she'll live for the remainder of the playthrough. But say you don't feel like being this damsel in distress's knight in shining armor. Well, lucky for you, and unlucky for her, you don't have to. One can just walk right past her and continue on their merry way with the quest, leaving the poor girl trapped. You will of course miss out on her unique dialogue and background information. Instead, that'll be replaced with cries of, "Wait, where are you going? Come back!" But if maybe you just feel like being mad at the world, you can take out your frustrations here, by doing absolutely nothing. And finally, last on our list, LEM Kill is a Nord farmer living with his 2 twin daughters, Sissel and Britt, in Rorikstead. LEM Kill is a bit of a, let's just say, special guy. He's a pretty horrible human being all around. We're unable to enter any interactive dialogue with him, but all of the radiant miscellaneous quotes he does say are just plain awful to listen to. He speaks of his children with complete disdain, even going so far as to blame them for the death of their mother during childbirth.
Do yourself a favor and don't have children. They're good for nothing at all. Curse my good-for-nothing daughters. My wife was twice the woman they'll ever grow to be. She gave her life birthing them. What a waste.
Furthermore, we can even hear him get into arguments with other citizens of the settlement over his behavior towards his daughters. Clearly not a good person, but all of these mean-spirited words pale in comparison to one specific action of his that he's planning, that you are central to if you agree. Because if LEM Kill happens to see you get into a fight inside the city, albeit with one of the other citizens or maybe some attacking bandits, it's possible later on you might get a letter from him. In it, the man will remark how impressed he was by you, and proceed to eventually ask that you attack one of his children in order to teach them a lesson, promising you a small sum of gold if you agree. Reading this note will kickstart a small miscellaneous quest in which you, well, you guessed it, are sent to fight one of the kids, which you can do and eventually get paid for it, completing the quest. Now, at this point you may be asking yourself, okay, this is weird, why would Bethesda include a mission like this? And there's actually a pretty reasonable answer. Let me explain. Every NPC in the game has a relationship setting with every other NPC in the game. In most cases, 2 normal NPCs will be neutral towards each other. So a random citizen from Solitude will have a neutral setting towards some random citizen from Windhelm. But there are a lot of exceptions. For instance, bandits seem to hate everyone but other bandits. Though, you get the idea. This relationship setting helps determine aggression and the types of dialogue NPCs use with each other. Because according to the lore, LEM Kill is set to dislike his kids, his relationship setting in-game reflects that. And according to the game's files, he has a negative disposition with both of his kids. Between any 2 characters that have a negative disposition towards each other, it's possible for these little interactions to occur, where you receive a letter from one of them asking you to beat up on the other. It's also possible that if you were to, for instance, kill a character another NPC didn't like, that NPC in turn would send you some gold for taking care of one of their enemies. It's not pre-scripted or anything, these are just randomly generated events and interactions that Bethesda included in the game to spice things up. And they just didn't seem to think of disabling this interaction between LEM Kill and his daughters. But in a weird way, this does sort of seem to fit with his terrible personality. No matter, for the most evil among you, this whole series of events is technically a possibility. And with that, we are going to wrap up. 5 more evil choices in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of these not-so-kind acts that we dived into today were your own favorites? And what unheroic choices have you made throughout your time in Skyrim that I've yet to cover? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.